Hello YouTube, welcome to my first game review. I actually put some more thought into this first. When I did my first anime review, Angel Beats wasn't really my first choice, it was just what I had finished most recently. In this case, I decided to start from the beginning. Assuming my research is correct, there were 30 Sonic the Hedgehog games released before Adventure 2 Battle, but this is the one I associate most with my childhood. Now I'll be the first to admit that I'm not very in tune with a lot of the technical stuff, so I apologize if this review is lacking in discussion of the controls and whatnot. Please feel free to leave any suggestions you have in the comments. That said, I will probably be going over a lot of the same things I discuss in my anime reviews. For me, video games are just like really interactive movies. I play a game with the intention of finding out what happens next in the story, so how much I enjoy a game can be directly correlated to how interesting the plotline is. This game has my favorite storyline of any Sonic game I've ever played, and I do plan on going all the way through it, so I feel a spoiler warning is appropriate. As a little background, if you ever saw or played as Shadow the Hedgehog or Rouge the Bat in a later Sonic game, they were both introduced in this one, but in accordance to the plot, Shadow is the more important character. In this game there are two story modes. You can play through as the heroes, Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails, or the villains, Eggman, Shadow, and Rouge, but you have to play both in order to get the full story. Chronologically, the dark side is the beginning. Our story begins with Dr. Eggman breaking into a military base to steal a creation of his grandfather's rumored to be the ultimate life form. But what he finds is a creature who looks quite a bit like Sonic, only with different coloring, who introduces himself as Shadow. Shadow begins stealing Chaos Emeralds, and this is where the hero story starts, with escaping from the police, who've mistaken Shadow for Sonic. For a large portion, Rouge and Knuckles' story is almost like a side plot. Knuckles breaks the Master Emerald to stop Eggman from stealing it, knowing he can put it back together once he finds all the pieces. Unfortunately, right before Eggman showed up, he'd been trying to stop Rouge from stealing the Master Emerald. So Rouge and Knuckles' stages are basically like treasure hunting. Eventually this leads to them meeting up with their respective teams. The only real complaint I could come up with in terms of the plot is that it houses two plot points that have been done to death, and in the end, they aren't even really complaints. The first is the whole the villain doesn't have any deeper reason for being evil than wanting to take over the world. But this can be excused because that's kind of all there's ever been to Eggman's character. And the other plot point that's been done to death is Shadow's amnesia. I've mentioned in some of my anime reviews that amnesia is a very convenient excuse to explain what's going on to the viewers, but Shadow's memory loss serves a greater purpose. He's been shut down, I guess is the right word, for 50 years, and all he really remembers is making a promise to a young girl named Maria, Eggman's cousin, who was killed when the space colony she was living on was shut down by the military. So Shadow, secretly planning to take revenge on humanity by destroying the Earth, convinces Eggman and Rouge to help gather the Chaos Emeralds in order to reactivate a weapon on the colony, which is how everyone ends up in space. Abridging things a little, in an odd twist, Rouge turns out to be a government spy tasked with keeping an eye on Eggman, and Tails creates a fake Chaos Emerald for Sonic to stick in the Eclipse cannon. The heroes succeed, of course, and the cannon does not destroy the Earth. But the space colony is still on a collision course with Earth. Not wanting their home to be destroyed, and not wanting to die, Rouge and Eggman team up with the heroes to save the world, which was like plot writing gold when I was a child. It's around this time that Amy does her first useful thing in the whole game. Shadow has thus far refused to help, but when Amy begs him to reconsider, it triggers a memory of Maria, revealing that her final wish was that Shadow protect humanity, not destroy it. So he joins Sonic, and they use the Chaos Emeralds to become Super Sonic and Hyper Shadow. They defeat the final boss, and Shadow runs out of energy, falling to Earth in the end. Now clearly this wasn't the last we'd see of Shadow. He's a playable character in many other Sonic games, and he got his own game, so we sort of have a canon explanation as to how he survived. But for the purpose of just the plot of this game, Shadow dies, sacrificing himself to help the heroes. Anyway, my only other plot complaint would probably be the inclusion of Amy. I know a lot of people can't stand Amy, but I don't really hate her as a character. I feel like she's one of those characters who has a lot of potential but gets screwed over by the writing staff. She herself, on many occasions, complains that she's not doing anything useful. I feel like she either should have been written out or made a little more crucial to the storyline. As far as the cutscenes go, I feel like most of the voice acting was done very well, which is good because these are the voices I associate most with the characters, but the lip syncing was laughably bad. Whenever I watch an anime in English, I usually make a point of choosing my favorite voice performance, but with the exception of any time a human had to speak and Tails, I liked everyone's voice acting just fine. In terms of other things that impressed me while replaying this game in 2014, the animation is actually pretty good. Noticeably better for the non-human characters, but not bad overall, especially for a game that came out 12 or 13 years ago now. In terms of gameplay, I mentioned that this is a game I associate with my childhood. I was actually first introduced to it at my old daycare, and it wasn't one of those games where I'd just run around until something killed me. As a young child, I was actually capable of playing through the levels. It's not terribly difficult or complicated. It's definitely possible to beat the storyline in one sitting, depending of course on how long you can tolerate playing a video game for any one time. My most recent playthrough actually happened over a period of 3 or 4 days, but that's because real-life things like school and work insisted on getting in the way. My biggest complaint with the gameplay is the camera. It likes to go out of focus, so you can't see where you are or what's in front of you, which can sometimes lead to your death if there's an enemy around or you accidentally jump off a ledge. Yeah, that could stand to be fixed. All in all, though, I love this game. Like Digimon, it's something that I've come to appreciate even more as I got older. Some stages are harder than others, but nothing's undoably difficult. I have only seen the GameCube version, but I believe it's been released on a few other consoles as well since it first came out. And this concludes my first game review. Like I said, if you feel I missed anything important, feel free to leave suggestions, and thank you for watching.